The rain hit the ground hard, like the sky was angry. Noah Carter's chest burned as he ran. His old, ripped shoes slapped against the wet street. He wasn't running away from something. He was running toward the only thing that mattered. The food delivery bag on his back was already 20 minutes late. Being 20 minutes late meant getting fired. Getting fired meant no money for electricity. No electricity meant his mom's breathing machine would stop working. He was 12 years old, and time was running out. Before we start, write your name and where in the world you are watching from in the comments below. Then he saw the boy collapsed against a street light like thrown-away trash. A skinny kid in a fancy school jacket lay still in the dirty water by the curb. Rain pounded his face. His lips were turning blue. And not one person on that busy New York street had stopped to help. Noah's phone buzzed. Final warning. Deliver in 10 minutes or you're fired. He looked at the screen, looked at the boy, thought about his mother's face, the way she smiled even when she hurt, even when she pretended the unpaid bills didn't scare her. 10 minutes to save his family, or 10 seconds to save some stranger's son. Noah put his phone away, dropped to his knees in the cold water, and pulled the boy onto his back. He didn't know the kid's name was Jay Wellington. He didn't know Jay's father owned half the city. He didn't know that in 3 days, the man chasing them through the rain right now, the scared billionaire running from a black car, would come to Noah's door and offer him something worth more than money. All Noah knew was that the boy on his back was dying, and nobody else was going to help. Noah's legs hurt with every step. Jay was heavier than he looked, like dead weight against Noah's back, arms hanging loose over his shoulders. The fancy school jacket was soaked, and Noah could feel the smaller boy's chest barely moving against his back. Stay alive. Come on. Stay alive. He'd seen the hospital sign 3 blocks back. 3 blocks. That was nothing on his delivery runs. He'd done 15 miles in one day before, dodging through traffic with packages worth more than his family's apartment. But he'd never carried a person. His foot hit a hole in the street. He almost fell, caught himself on a parked car's mirror. Pain shot through his wrist. He didn't stop. Behind him, somewhere in the mess of honking cars and yelling people, he heard a man's voice, desperate and broken. "Jay? Someone help my son." Noah didn't look back. Couldn't waste time. Every second counted. Jay might not make it back. The hospital doors showed up through the wall of rain like the gates of heaven. Noah pushed through. The automatic doors slid open, and the hospital's bright lights hit Noah's eyes like a slap. The sudden warmth made his wet clothes stick to his skin. His legs shook from exhaustion, but he didn't stop moving. "Help!" Noah's voice cracked as he stumbled toward the emergency desk. The nurse looked up from her computer screen, saw a soaked kid carrying another kid, and her training kicked in. She pressed a button. Code Blue, ER entrance. 3 people in scrubs rushed over with a stretcher. Noah's arms gave out as they lifted Jay off his back. The boy's skin looked gray under the fluorescent lights. His breathing was so shallow it looked like he might stop any second. "What happened?" The doctor's hands moved fast, checking Jay's pulse, lifting his eyelids. "I found him on the street. He was just lying there in the rain." Noah backed away as they wheeled Jay toward the treatment rooms. His delivery bag felt heavy on his shoulders, reminding him of everything he'd lost in the last hour. Noah's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out with shaking fingers. The screen showed 17 missed calls and a text that made his stomach drop. "Carter, you missed the deadline. Don't come back tomorrow. Your last check will be mailed." He stared at the words until they blurred. 3 years of never missing a delivery. 3 years of running through storms and dodging traffic and never complaining about the impossible schedules. Gone because he chose to save a stranger's life. The rain followed him outside, hitting his face like tiny needles. The streets looked different now, emptier, like the whole city had moved on without him while he was inside trying to save someone he didn't even know. Noah's apartment building rose up from the housing projects like a broken tooth. 14 floors of cracked windows and rusted fire escapes. The elevator hadn't worked in 2 years, so he climbed the stairs to the 8th floor, his wet shoes squeaking on every step. The yellow paper on their door caught his eye before he even reached for his keys. Official city letterhead. Bold black letters that spelled out the end of everything. Eviction notice final demand for payment, $2,147. $50 in arrears. Vacate premises within 72 hours or face forcible removal. Noah ripped the paper off the door and crumpled it in his fist. Inside their small apartment, he could hear the steady rhythm of his mother's oxygen machine, the sound that kept her alive and kept them poor. "Baby? That you?" Her voice drifted from the bedroom, weak but warm. "Yeah, Mom. Just got home." He tried to make his voice sound normal, but it came out tight and fake. She appeared in the doorway, moving slowly with the oxygen tank trailing behind her on wheels. Even sick, even tired, she was the most beautiful person he'd ever seen. Her smile could make him forget about empty cabinets and past-due bills and the weight of keeping them both alive. "You're soaked through. What happened to your jacket?" Noah looked down. Somewhere between the street and the hospital, he'd lost his only warm coat. "Left it at work. It's fine." "Noah Carter, you look at me." She moved closer, her dark eyes studying his face, the way she always did when she knew he was hiding something. "What's wrong?" He wanted to tell her everything. About Jay Wellington unconscious in the gutter. About choosing to save a stranger and losing their future. About the eviction notice burning a hole in his back pocket. But she already carried enough weight on her thin shoulders. "Just a long day. I'm going to take a shower." "Did you eat? There's some soup left from yesterday." Noah's stomach growled, but they both knew the soup was for her. Her medicine made her nauseous, and soup was sometimes the only thing she could keep down. "I ate at work." Another lie. But lies that protected her didn't count as real lies. In his small bedroom, Noah pulled out the shoebox from under his bed, their emergency fund. Bills and coins saved from months of skipping meals and walking instead of taking the bus. He counted twice to make sure. $43.16. Everything they had in the world. His mom's insulin prescription sat on his desk like an accusation. $63. Due tomorrow morning, or the pharmacy would cut off her supply. The electricity bill was $78 past due. The water bill was $42. The math was simple and impossible. Even if he gave up food for a week, they were short by more than $100. Noah sat on his bed and stared at his hands. 12 years old, and he was failing at the only job that mattered. Keeping his mother alive. 3 blocks away, in a hospital room that cost more per night than Noah's family made in a month, Gregory Wellington sat beside his son's bed and watched the steady rise and fall of Jay's chest. The doctors said he would be fine. Hypothermia, but caught early enough to avoid permanent damage. "Sir?" Detective Rodriguez stood in the doorway, holding a tablet. "We pulled the security footage from the street cameras." Gregory looked up. For 6 hours, he'd been trying to find the boy who saved his son. The hospital staff remembered a young black kid, soaked to the bone, who'd carried Jay through the emergency room doors. But the boy had disappeared before anyone could get his name. "Show me." The video was grainy and dark, rain making everything blur together. But Gregory could see enough. A small figure kneeling in the street, lifting Jay onto his back, struggling through the storm. When the camera caught the boy's face for just a moment, Gregory saw something that made his chest tight. Determination. Purpose. The look of someone who understood responsibility in ways most adults never would. Can you clean up the image? Already working on it. Should have a clearer picture by morning. I want him found. Use whatever resources you need. Gregory Wellington owned 47 buildings in Manhattan, employed 14,000 people worldwide, and had enough money to buy small countries. But for the first time in years, he needed something he couldn't purchase. He needed to find one boy in a city of 8 million people. A boy who'd chosen compassion over self-interest without thinking twice about the cost. The next morning, Noah walked 12 blocks to the pharmacy with his mother's prescription and $43. The pharmacist, Mrs. Chen, had known them for 3 years. She'd seen Noah grow from a scared 9-year-old to a boy who carried himself like a man. She knew their situation without Noah ever saying a word. It's 63 today, honey. I know. Noah counted out the bills on the counter. I'm 20 short. Can I pay the rest Friday? Mrs. Chen looked at the money, looked at Noah's face, looked at the prescription that would keep his mother breathing for another month. She made a decision that would save his world and nearly destroy her business. Take it. Pay me when you can. Noah wanted to hug her. Instead, he nodded once and took the small bottle that was worth more than gold. Thank you. Outside, his phone rang. Unknown number. Noah Carter? Yeah? My name is Gregory Wellington. I believe you saved my son yesterday. Noah stopped walking. Cars honked around him as he stood frozen on the sidewalk. I don't know what you're talking about. Jay Wellington. Prep school uniform. You carried him to Presbyterian Hospital during the storm? The voice was calm, controlled, the kind of voice that was used to getting what it wanted. Noah thought about hanging up. Rich people meant complications. Rich people meant questions about why a 12-year-old was working delivery jobs instead of sitting in school. Is he okay? He's fine, thanks to you. A pause. I'd like to meet you, to thank you properly. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Are you at home? I'm in the area. Noah looked around. He was 6 blocks from the projects, standing outside a pawn shop with his mother's medicine in his pocket, and nowhere to go except back to an apartment they'd lose in 60 hours. I'm not home. Then where can I find you? Noah gave him the address of the small park near his building. Neutral ground. Somewhere he could run if this went bad. 20 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up to the curb like something from a movie. The rear window rolled down, and Noah saw a man in an expensive suit, graying hair, eyes that looked like they could see through walls. This was what power looked like in person. Noah? The man stepped out of the car. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, and moved like someone who'd never worried about where his next meal would come from. I'm Gregory Wellington. Noah stayed where he was, hands in his pockets. Your son's really okay? Complete recovery. The doctors said if you'd waited another 10 minutes. Gregory didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They stood looking at each other across 10 feet of broken concrete. Noah saw a man who could probably buy his entire neighborhood without checking his bank account. Gregory saw a boy who'd sacrificed his future to save a stranger and was still too proud to ask for anything in return. I know about your job, Gregory said quietly. I know you lost it because you stopped to help Jay. Noah's face went hot. I don't need your pity. Good, because I'm not offering pity. Gregory stepped closer. I'm offering opportunity. Noah's hands trembled as he stared at the man who owned half of Manhattan. What kind of opportunity? Wellington Industries is launching a summer internship program. Consulting level. Real projects, real responsibility. Gregory pulled out a business card. 12 weeks, $5,000 stipend. $5,000. Noah's mind raced through the math. Rent for 3 months, his mother's insulin for 2, maybe even money left over for the electric bill. I'm 12 years old, Noah said. Age is just a number. Talent isn't. Gregory's eyes never wavered. Be at Wellington Industries tomorrow morning, 47th floor, 8 a.m. sharp. The black SUV disappeared into traffic, leaving Noah holding a business card that felt heavier than any package he'd ever delivered. The next morning, Noah stood before a glass tower that scraped the belly of low-hanging clouds. Security guards in crisp uniforms flanked marble columns. Business people in $1,000 suits swept past him like he was invisible furniture. He wore his only dress shirt, bought second-hand 3 years ago. The sleeves stopped 2 inches above his wrists. Can I help you? The receptionist's smile was professional ice. I'm here for the internship program. Her eyes swept over his clothes, his youth, his skin color. The intern orientation is on the 20th floor. Elevators are to your right. The elevator rose through floors of power and money. 20, 30, 40. Noah watched Manhattan shrink below him through glass walls, thinking about his mother's labored breathing 2 hours away on the subway. The 20th floor conference room buzzed with nervous energy. 15 teenagers clustered around a mahogany table that could feed his housing project for a month. Private school blazers, designer handbags, conversations about ski trips to Aspen, and family yachts in the Hamptons. Noah slipped into a corner chair. Welcome to Wellington Industries. A woman in a sharp suit addressed the room. I'm Diana Reeves, Director of Human Resources. You represent the finest young minds from the finest institutions in the city. Her eyes lingered on Noah. He straightened his shoulders. This program is competitive. One of you will receive a full-time position offer upon graduation. The rest will receive excellent references and networking opportunities. A blonde girl raised her hand. What kind of projects will we work on? Each intern will be assigned to a department based on their background and interests. Finance, marketing, legal, operations. Diana's clipboard rustled. You'll shadow senior executives and contribute to real initiatives. Noah's heart hammered. He belonged here. He had to belong here. After orientation, the interns gathered in small groups. Noah approached 3 boys discussing market analysis. Mind if I join? He asked. The tallest one, with perfectly styled brown hair and a Princeton sweater, looked Noah up and down. I don't think we've met. I'm Bryce Whitmore. My father heads the legal division. Noah Carter. Carter. Bryce's brow furrowed theatrically. Which family are you from? I don't recognize the name. The kind that works for a living, Noah said evenly. Bryce's smile turned sharp. How refreshing. A scholarship case. The other boys snickered. Noah's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. I'm here because Mr. Wellington believes I can contribute. Of course. Bryce clapped Noah's shoulder with false friendliness. We need diversity, after all. Someone has to do the grunt work. Noah's fists clenched, but Diana Reeves called for attention before he could respond. Department assignments, she announced. Marketing team, Jennifer Walsh, Christopher Hayes. Names paired with destinations. Noah waited as the list dwindled. Noah Carter, Operations and Logistics. You'll report to Floor Coordinator Margaret Chen. operations and logistics. Not the legal department where deals worth millions got made. Not finance where futures were traded like poker chips. The invisible machinery that kept the building running. Margaret Chen met him at a supply closet on the 32nd floor. She was 40-something with kind eyes and calloused hands that suggested she'd worked her way up from somewhere real. "So, you're our young recruit," she said, handing him a gray uniform shirt. "Hope you're ready to work." The uniform hung loose on Noah's frame. Margaret led him through a maze of corridors behind the gleaming public spaces. Service elevators, storage rooms, the arteries that pumped life through the corporate body. "Your job is mail delivery," Margaret explained, pushing a wheeled cart toward him. "Internal documents, packages, interdepartmental communications. Every floor, every department." Noah gripped the cart handle. After racing bicycles through Manhattan traffic, pushing wheels through carpeted hallways seemed almost insultingly easy. "Route efficiency matters," Margaret continued. "We've got 47 floors and 600 employees. Documents need to reach their destinations fast." "How fast?" "Current average is 43 minutes for building-wide delivery. Previous record is 38. Margaret's eyes sparkled with challenge. "Think you can beat it?" Noah smiled for the first time all day. "I can try." The first week was a revelation in humiliation. Bryce and his circle made sure Noah knew his place. They'd flag him down in hallways, pile their personal mail onto his cart, speak to him like he was hired help instead of a fellow intern. "Carter, take this to accounting," Bryce would say, not looking up from his phone. "And grab me a coffee on your way back." Noah bit his tongue and delivered the documents. But while he pushed his cart through Westminster's arteries, his eyes were collecting data. He noticed everything. The finance department clustered on floors 35 through 38. Marketing occupied 28 through 31. Legal dominated the top floors, 43 through 46, with Gregory Wellington's executive suite crowning the 47th. But the real revelation was the chaos. Documents meant for the 35th floor ended up on the 20th. Urgent contracts sat in wrong mailboxes for hours. The building's internal communication system was a disaster of inefficiency that cost time, money, and opportunities. Noah began timing his routes, measuring distances, mapping bottlenecks. On Tuesday of his second week, he watched a junior associate from marketing sprint between floors for 20 minutes, searching for a contract that had been misdelivered to the wrong department. The associate missed a client call worth $50,000. Wednesday, Noah observed 3 different messengers covering the same route within an hour because departments weren't coordinating their communications. Thursday, he counted 17 separate trips between legal and finance that could have been consolidated into 3 optimized runs. The numbers painted a picture of systematic failure hidden beneath the building's gleaming surface. Noah started sketching routing diagrams on napkins during lunch breaks, working out more efficient pathways through Wellington's vertical maze. After 2 weeks, Noah had cut his delivery average to 31 minutes. Margaret raised an eyebrow when she saw the numbers, but said nothing. After 3 weeks, Noah was completing building-wide deliveries in 28 minutes. Other mail clerks started asking him questions about his routes. But Noah's real education happened during his evening shifts at the public library. While other interns headed home to private tutors and family dinners, Noah caught the subway to the Bronx Branch Library and claimed a computer terminal in the back corner. He taught himself logistics optimization through online courses, studied supply chain management theories, downloaded programming tutorials, and practiced coding simple algorithms. The library closed at 9 p.m. Noah would ride the subway home, reviewing his handwritten notes about Wellington's internal inefficiencies. Patterns emerged, solutions crystallized. By his 4th week, Noah had identified the root problems. Wellington Industries used a hub-and-spoke mail system designed for a building half its current size. Documents flowed through unnecessary central checkpoints, creating bottlenecks that rippled through every department. The routing software was 8 years old, programmed when the company had 300 employees instead of 600. It couldn't adapt to changing traffic patterns or department relocations. Most critically, the system treated all documents equally. Routine memos received the same priority as time-sensitive contracts, creating delays that cost the company opportunities. Noah did the math. Conservative estimates suggested these inefficiencies were costing Wellington Industries 15% of potential revenue. On annual revenues of $800 million, that meant the company was bleeding over $100 million due to poor internal logistics. $100 million. More money than Noah could conceptualize, lost because no one had bothered to optimize the invisible systems that made everything else possible. Late at night in his cramped bedroom, while his mother slept with her oxygen concentrator humming, Noah began coding a solution. His fingers moved across the second-hand laptop keyboard, translating street-smart insights about flow and efficiency into algorithmic precision. He designed a dynamic routing system that could adapt in real time. Priority algorithms that distinguished between urgent and routine communications. Predictive modeling that anticipated departmental needs before they created bottlenecks. The code grew over weeks of midnight sessions. Noah tested scenarios, refined calculations, debugged endless loops until his eyes burned and his back ached from hunching over the small screen. But when he ran simulations using Wellington's actual data, the results were stunning. His system could cut internal communication time by 60%. Document delivery errors would drop to near zero. The efficiency gains translated to millions of recovered revenue. Noah had built a solution that could revolutionize how Wellington Industries operated. The question was whether anyone would listen to a 12-year-old courier who'd learned programming at library computers. Friday morning of his 5th week, Noah wheeled his mail cart onto the 43rd floor. Bryce Whitmore stood beside the elevator bank with 2 other interns, blocking the path to the legal department. "Carter," Bryce called out. "Perfect timing." Noah stopped the cart. "I'm making deliveries." "So are we. Consider this a delivery of reality." Bryce stepped closer, flanked by his companions. "You've been here over a month, still pushing that cart around like the help." "I'm an intern, same as you." "No," Bryce said slowly. "You're really not." The other interns laughed. Noah's grip tightened on the cart handle, but he kept his voice level. "Some of us are here because we belong," Bryce continued. "Others are here because, well, let's call it charitable outreach." Noah met Bryce's eyes. "Is there something specific you need? Or are you just practicing for your daddy's country club meetings?" Bryce's smile disappeared. "Careful, Carter. You don't want to make enemies here." "I'm not making anything. Just doing my job." "Your job?" Bryce nodded thoughtfully. "Right. The job where you deliver our mail and fetch our coffee. The job that reminds everyone exactly where you belong in this building's hierarchy." Noah pushed the cart forward. Bryce stepped aside at the last second, but his voice followed Noah down the hallway. "Some people are born for success, Carter. Others are born to serve." That evening, Noah sat in the library's computer lab, staring at his completed logistics program. Hundreds of hours of work. A solution worth millions of dollars. Code that could change how Wellington Industries operated. But Bryce's words echoed in his mind. Others are born to serve. Noah opened a new document and began typing a detailed analysis of Wellington's logistics problems. He outlined his solution methodology, provided mathematical proofs for his efficiency calculations, and documented the potential revenue impact. 23 pages, single-spaced, comprehensive enough to demonstrate mastery of complex organizational systems, detailed enough to prove that his solution wasn't luck or accident, but the result of careful analysis and innovative thinking. He printed the document on the library's printer, using his own quarters. Tomorrow, he would find a way to present his work to someone who mattered. Someone who could see past a 12-year-old courier and recognize a mind capable of solving problems others hadn't even noticed. Noah folded the papers carefully and slipped them into his backpack. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Somewhere in that urban maze, his mother waited in their tiny apartment, proud of her son who wore a uniform to work in a glass tower. She didn't know that her son had just finished designing a system that could revolutionize corporate logistics. She didn't know that the boy she'd raised to choose compassion over survival was about to choose courage over invisibility. But tomorrow, Noah decided, everyone would know. The question was whether they would listen. The next morning arrived with the harsh fluorescent lights of Wellington Industries' 47th floor. Noah stepped out of the elevator, his worn sneakers silent against the polished marble. The USB drive in his pocket felt heavier than his entire backpack once had during those courier runs through Manhattan's unforgiving streets. Bryce Whitmore stood near the water cooler, his perfectly pressed shirt catching the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. He was laughing with two other interns, his voice carrying that particular confidence that came with never having to worry about rent money or empty refrigerators. Noah caught fragments of their conversation as he walked past. "The presentation's going to blow their minds," Bryce was saying, adjusting his designer watch. "Gregory Wellington himself is going to be in that room. This is my ticket to the top floor." Noah's stomach twisted. The presentation. His presentation. The one that had taken him 3 sleepless nights at the public library to perfect, hunched over a computer that smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. The one that could save Wellington Industries millions of dollars while fixing problems that had plagued their logistics department for years. He made it to his assigned cubicle, a cramped space barely large enough for a desk and chair. Someone had taped a handwritten sign to his computer monitor. "Mailboy." Noah pulled it off, crumpling the paper in his fist. The anger felt clean, sharp, different from the dull ache of hunger or the panic of unpaid bills. This anger had purpose. Looking for something? Noah turned to find Bryce standing behind him, that same smug smile playing across his features. In his hands were Noah's handwritten notes, the pages filled with calculations and diagrams that had taken weeks to develop. "Those are mine," Noah said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Are they?" Bryce flipped through the pages with theatrical slowness. "I found these on the floor near the copier. Looked like trash to me. But you know what? Some of these ideas aren't completely terrible. Rough around the edges, obviously, but with the right presentation, the right person delivering them." He shrugged, as if the outcome was inevitable. Noah's mind raced through his options. He could report the theft, but who would believe the mailboy over the son of a department head? He could confront Bryce publicly, but that would only make him look desperate, unstable. In a building where reputation mattered more than truth, Noah had learned that the wrong perception could destroy a person faster than any actual failure. "Keep them," Noah said finally. "I hope they serve you well." Bryce's smile faltered for just a moment, confusion flickering across his face. He had expected anger, pleading, maybe even tears. Instead, Noah turned back to his computer and began typing, his fingers moving across the keyboard with the same precision he had once used to navigate traffic on his bicycle. because Bryce Whitmore had made a crucial mistake. He had stolen the map, but Noah still had the territory. The handwritten notes contained theories, concepts, rough calculations that pointed toward a solution. But the real work, the mathematical models that proved those theories could actually function, the code that would make the whole system operational, the detailed analysis of human behavior patterns that made his approach revolutionary, all of that lived on the USB drive in Noah's pocket and in the mind that had created it. For the next 4 hours, Noah watched Bryce prepare. He saw him printing presentation slides, booking the main conference room, even practicing his speech in an empty office with the door cracked open. Bryce's confidence was infectious, spreading to the other interns who began treating him like the chosen successor to Gregory Wellington's empire. Noah used those same 4 hours differently. He refined his code, double-checking every algorithm. He prepared backup slides that would demonstrate not just what his system could do, but how it worked, why it worked, and what made it different from every other logistics solution that had failed before it. He rehearsed answers to technical questions that would expose anyone who had stolen rather than created the work. At lunch, Noah sat alone in the company cafeteria, picking at a sandwich that cost more than his family used to spend on groceries in a day. Around him, the corporate world hummed with its usual rhythms: deal-making over salads, networking disguised as friendly conversation, the careful dance of ambition wrapped in professional courtesy. His phone buzzed, a text from his mother. "How's work, honey? Don't forget to eat." He started to type back something reassuring, but stopped. His mother had raised him to tell the truth, even when it hurt. She deserved honesty now. "Someone stole my project. Big presentation this afternoon. Not sure what happens next." Her response came quickly. "You've been fighting uphill battles your whole life. This is just another hill. Climb it." Noah smiled for the first time that day. His mother had a way of cutting through complexity to reach the simple truth underneath. This wasn't about corporate politics or class warfare or any of the larger forces that seemed to control his life. This was about whether he would let someone else take credit for his work, whether he would stay invisible when visibility was the only thing that could save him. At 2 o'clock, the conference room began filling with Wellington Industries' senior staff. Noah positioned himself near the back, watching as Bryce took his place at the front, looking every inch the confident young executive in his tailored suit and perfect haircut. Gregory Wellington entered last, his presence immediately commanding the room's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gregory said, settling into his chair at the head of the long table, "we're here to review some innovative proposals for improving our logistics operations. I understand we have some fresh thinking to consider." His eyes swept the room, pausing briefly on Noah before moving to Bryce. "Mr. Whitmore, I believe you have something to show us?" Bryce stood, clicking his remote to activate the presentation screen. Noah's diagrams appeared, slightly modified, but unmistakably his work. The room fell silent as Bryce began speaking, his voice smooth and practiced. "Thank you, Mr. Wellington. What I'm proposing today will revolutionize how we think about supply chain efficiency. By analyzing human behavioral patterns and combining them with algorithmic optimization, we can reduce costs by up to 15% while improving delivery times across all sectors." The presentation continued for 20 minutes. Bryce hit all the major points, explaining the problems with their current system and outlining the basic framework of Noah's solution. He spoke with authority about inefficiencies and bottlenecks, about the psychological factors that affected worker productivity, about the mathematical models that could predict and prevent system failures. Noah had to admit that Bryce was good. He understood the material well enough to present it convincingly, and his natural confidence made him sound like someone who belonged in that room. The senior staff nodded appreciatively, asking questions that Bryce answered with the smooth deflection of someone who had studied the material without truly creating it. But then Gregory Wellington leaned forward, his fingers steepled in front of him. "Impressive work, Mr. Whitmore. Very impressive indeed. I have just one question." His voice was casual, almost friendly. "Can you walk us through the mathematical proof that validates your efficiency calculations? I'd like to see the actual formulas that demonstrate how these behavioral modifications translate into measurable cost savings." The room went quiet. Bryce's confident smile flickered, then returned, but Noah could see the uncertainty in his eyes. "Of course, sir. The mathematical framework is, well, it's quite complex. I'd be happy to provide you with the detailed calculations after the meeting." "No need to wait," Gregory said, standing and walking to the whiteboard at the front of the room. He picked up a marker and handed it to Bryce. "Show us now. Just the core formula that proves your 15% efficiency gain. Should take about 2 minutes." Bryce took the marker, his hand trembling slightly. He stared at the blank whiteboard for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Around the room, senior executives waited with the patience of people who had learned to recognize competence and its absence. "Aye," Bryce began, then stopped. He looked at the marker in his hand as if he had never seen one before. "The formula is, it's based on multiple variables that interact in complex ways." "Try us," Gregory said gently. "We're a fairly smart group." Noah felt the moment crystallizing around him. Every choice he had ever made, every sacrifice his mother had endured, every night he had chosen studying over sleeping, had led to this single point in time. He could remain silent, let Bryce fail on his own, and hope that someone else would eventually recognize his abilities. Or he could step into the light, risk everything, and claim what belonged to him. He thought about his mother's text, about climbing hills that seemed impossible. He thought about the little boy who had chosen to save Jay Wellington instead of delivering a package on time. That boy had risked everything for a stranger. Maybe it was time to risk everything for himself. Noah stood up. The conference room fell silent as all eyes turned to the 12-year-old boy standing near the back wall. Noah's heart hammered against his ribs, but his voice came out steady and clear. "Excuse me, Mr. Wellington. I believe there's been a mistake." Gregory Wellington's eyebrows raised slightly. Around the polished mahogany table, 20 executives in $1,000 suits turned to stare at the kid in second-hand clothes. Bryce Whitmore's face went white. "A mistake." Gregory's voice carried genuine curiosity. "Please elaborate, Mr. Carter." Noah walked slowly toward the front of the room, each step feeling like crossing a bridge he could never uncross. "The presentation Mr. Whitmore just gave contains my work, my analysis, my solutions, my code." Bryce shot to his feet. "That's ridiculous! This is clearly the work of someone with proper training, not some—" "Not some what?" Gregory's voice cut through Bryce's protest like ice. The billionaire's gray eyes fixed on his senior vice president's son with unmistakable warning. Bryce's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Around the table, the other executives shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs. Noah reached the whiteboard at the front of the room. His palms were sweating, but his mind was crystal clear. "Mr. Whitmore showed you the results, but he can't show you the process. He can't explain how the solutions actually work, because he didn't create them." "This is insane," Bryce sputtered. "Why would I steal from an intern? Look at him. He's 12 years old." Gregory leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "An excellent point, Mr. Whitmore. Why don't you walk us through the mathematical foundation of your proposed routing algorithm? The color drained from Bryce's face. Well, the specifics are highly technical. We're all technical people here, said Sarah Chen, the chief technology officer, her voice sharp with interest. Please, show us the calculations. Bryce glanced desperately around the room. Perhaps Noah could. I mean, as my assistant, he could help demonstrate. Your assistant. Gregory's voice could have frozen boiling water. How generous of you to share credit. Noah, would you mind showing us what you've been working on? Noah picked up a black marker with hands that barely trembled. The whiteboard stretched before him like a blank canvas, waiting for him to paint his truth. He uncapped the marker and began to write. The current Wellington Industries logistics system operates on outdated hub-and-spoke methodology, he said, his voice growing stronger as familiar territory welcomed him home. But real efficiency comes from understanding human psychology, not just mathematical optimization. His marker flew across the board, sketching diagrams that transformed abstract concepts into visual logic. Traditional algorithms assume rational actors making optimal choices. But delivery drivers are humans. They get tired. They take shortcuts when stressed. They avoid certain neighborhoods after dark. The executives leaned forward as Noah's equations filled the whiteboard. Variables and constants, optimization functions, and behavioral coefficients, all flowing together in elegant mathematical poetry. The breakthrough isn't just routing efficiency, Noah continued, drawing connections between seemingly unrelated data points. It's predicting and compensating for human variables. A driver who's been on the road for 6 hours makes different choices than one who just started his shift. A route through high-crime areas takes longer at night, not because of traffic, but because drivers unconsciously slow down. He stepped back, revealing a complex but beautiful system of interconnected formulas. This algorithm doesn't just map the fastest routes. It maps the human routes. It reduces delivery times by 31%, fuel costs by 28%, and customer complaints by 45%. The room was dead silent. Sarah Chen was scribbling notes furiously. The CFO had pulled out his phone to run quick calculations. Even the administrative assistant in the corner had stopped typing. Gregory Wellington studied the whiteboard with the intensity of a jeweler examining a diamond. Where did this understanding of human psychology come from? Noah turned to face the room full of powerful adults. I spent 2 years as a courier. I knew every driver, every route, every shortcut. I watched the patterns. I saw how real people behave under pressure, when they're tired, when they're scared. You can't learn that from business school. Anyone could observe driver behavior, Bryce said desperately. That doesn't prove— Section 4:7 of your presentation, Noah interrupted. The efficiency multiplier for cross-borough deliveries during peak hours. What's the mathematical derivation? Bryce stared blankly. That's proprietary methodology. Noah walked to another section of the whiteboard and began writing. The multiplier is 173, derived from the statistical average of delivery time variations across 847 documented routes, adjusted for traffic patterns, psychological fatigue factors, and geographic familiarity coefficients. His marker moved with surgical precision, laying out layer after layer of mathematical proof. The base calculation uses modified Dijkstra's algorithm, but with weighted edges that account for driver experience levels, time of day variables, and what I call comfort zone degradation. The measurable increase in delivery time when drivers operate outside their familiar territories. Sarah Chen stood up abruptly. Jesus Christ! Do you realize what you've created here? A logistics optimization system that could revolutionize urban delivery networks, Noah said simply. Conservative estimates suggest 15 to 20% cost reduction across the industry. Gregory Wellington's eyes never left Noah's face. Mr. Whitmore, do you have anything to add to Noah's explanation? Bryce looked around the room like a trapped animal. Every executive was staring at him with expressions ranging from disappointment to disgust. There must be some misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, Gregory said, rising from his chair, is how someone, with your supposed qualifications, thought he could steal work of this caliber and not get caught. The billionaire's voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had built an empire from scratch. Not only did you commit intellectual theft, but you attempted to claim credit for innovations that could save this company tens of millions of dollars annually. Bryce's face crumpled. Please, Mr. Wellington, my father. Your father will be receiving a call from me personally. Gregory's words fell like hammer blows. Security will escort you from the building. Your internship is terminated, effective immediately. Two security guards who had been waiting outside the conference room entered on cue. Bryce looked around the table one last time, seeking sympathy from faces that offered only cold judgment. His shoulders sagged in defeat as he was led away. Gregory turned back to Noah, who stood quietly beside his mathematical masterpiece. Noah, do you have any more surprises for us? Noah considered the question seriously. I've been working on supply chain optimization for the manufacturing division, and I think there might be applications for the retail distribution network. Also, the employee scheduling system could benefit from similar human psychology principles. A low whistle came from somewhere around the conference table. The CFO was shaking his head in amazement. Kids sitting on a gold mine of improvements. Gregory walked to the whiteboard and studied Noah's work up close. How long would it take to implement the logistics system company-wide? Full rollout would require 6 months minimum, Noah said. We'd need to install new tracking systems, retrain dispatchers, and run parallel testing to avoid disrupting current operations. But we could start with pilot programs in 3 divisions and have measurable results within 8 weeks. Gregory's voice carried a hint of amusement. Noah felt heat rise in his cheeks. I mean, whoever you assign to oversee the implementation. I think I'm looking at him. Gregory turned to face the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet our new Director of Logistics Optimization. The conference room erupted in surprised murmurs. Sarah Chen started laughing. Greg? He's 12 years old. He's also just saved us more money than some of our division heads earn in profit, Gregory replied calmly. Age is just a number. Results are what matter. Noah felt the world shifting around him like tectonic plates rearranging themselves. Sir, I don't think. I'm still in middle school. We'll work around your school schedule, Gregory said. Flexible hours, remote work capabilities, and a tutor if needed. Your starting salary will be $185,000 annually, with performance bonuses tied to measurable improvements in efficiency metrics. The number hit Noah like a physical blow. In one moment, he had gone from facing eviction to earning more money than his mother could make in 5 years. His legs felt unsteady. Take a moment, Gregory said gently, noticing Noah's expression. This is a lot to process. Noah looked around the conference room full of successful adults, all watching him with expressions of curiosity and respect. 6 months ago, he had been invisible, just another poor kid pushing a mail cart through corporate hallways. Now he was being offered a director-level position in one of the most powerful companies in the city. He thought about his mother, probably sitting by the window in their cramped apartment, oxygen tank hissing softly beside her chair. He thought about the eviction notice still taped to their door. He thought about the courage it had taken to save Jay Wellington instead of delivering that package on time. Sometimes the biggest risks led to the biggest rewards. "When do I start?" Noah asked. Gregory Wellington smiled. "Welcome to Wellington Industries, Director Carter." 6 months after that handshake in Gregory Wellington's office, Noah Carter stood in his own corner workspace on the 32nd floor, watching numbers cascade across 3 monitors. The quarterly report glowed on his screen. Wellington Industries had saved $81 million in the first implementation period of his logistics system. $81 million. He still couldn't wrap his head around those numbers. 6 months ago, he'd been counting quarters for his mother's insulin. Now he was responsible for optimizing supply chains that moved billions of dollars across 6 continents. "Director Carter?" His assistant, Maria, knocked on his glass door. "Mr. Wellington is ready for your presentation to the board." Director Carter. Noah smiled every time he heard it. At 13, he was the youngest department director in Wellington Industries' history. The news had made business journals and corporate blogs worldwide. The prodigy from the projects, they called him. Noah preferred the kid who got lucky and worked hard. He grabbed his laptop and headed toward the executive conference room, the same room where Bryce Whitmore had tried to steal his future 6 months ago. Bryce was working at his father's law firm now, last Noah heard. Entry-level position. No shortcuts this time. The boardroom buzzed with conversation as Noah entered. These people controlled companies worth hundreds of billions. They managed pension funds, real estate empires, tech giants, and they were waiting to hear from a kid who used to deliver their mail. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gregory Wellington stood at the head of the polished table. "Our Director of Logistics Optimization will present this quarter's results." Noah connected his laptop to the projection system. His hands stayed steady. He'd learned that confidence wasn't about feeling fearless. It was about acting right despite the fear. "The implementation of the Dynamic Efficiency Protocol has exceeded all projections," Noah began, clicking to his first slide. "We've reduced delivery times by 37%, while cutting operational costs by 22% across all divisions." Board member Victoria Chambers raised her hand. "How is this possible? Our previous logistics team had 15 years of experience." Noah had expected this question. "Experience is valuable, Mrs. Chambers, but sometimes fresh eyes see old problems differently. When you've never been told something is impossible, you don't know to quit trying." He clicked to the next slide, showing before and after route maps. Traditional logistics focuses on shortest distance, but shortest distance isn't always fastest delivery. My system accounts for human behavior patterns, traffic psychology, even weather prediction models. When you understand how people actually move through cities, you can work with those patterns instead of against them. The room fell silent. Board member Harrison Webb leaned forward. "These savings numbers, they're audited?" "Triple audited by Ernst & Young," Gregory confirmed. "Noah's system is generating approximately $130 million in annual savings. $130 million. Noah remembered when saving $13 felt impossible. After the presentation, Noah walked to his office windows. The city spread below him like a circuit board, millions of lights connecting millions of lives. Somewhere down there, other kids were racing through rain with packages, choosing between survival and compassion. Noah's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "New house inspection went perfect. Move-in date is next Friday. I can't believe this is real." Noah smiled, typing back quickly. "It's real, Mom." You deserve every good thing coming our way. The new house sat in Riverside Gardens, a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and front porches. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a modern kitchen, and, most importantly, a medical room equipped with everything his mother needed. Oxygen concentrators, backup power systems, even a small physical therapy area. No more choosing between medicine and electricity. His office phone rang. "Noah, can you come to my office?" Gregory's voice. Noah found Gregory staring out his floor-to-ceiling windows, hands clasped behind his back. "Sit down, son." Son. Gregory had started calling him that about 2 months ago. Noah wasn't sure how he felt about it, but it didn't sound wrong. "I have a proposal for you," Gregory continued. "We're expanding the logistics division into its own subsidiary company, Wellington Efficiency Solutions. I want you to be Vice President of Operations." Vice President. At 13, Noah's head spun. "The board voted unanimously this morning," Gregory added, "but I told them the decision was yours. With this position comes significant responsibility. You'd oversee implementations for other companies who want to license your system, international travel, managing teams of adults who've been in this business longer than you've been alive." Noah thought about his mother, finally safe in a real home, about kids like him, still invisible in a world that counted them out before they got started, about the power to change systems instead of just surviving them. "I accept," Noah said, "but I have one condition." Gregory raised an eyebrow. "I want to hire someone specific for my team. Gavin Torres." "Should I know that name?" "He was my boss at Metro Courier Services. He fired me the day after I saved your son." Gregory's expression hardened. "And you want to hire the man who cost you your job?" "Noah, I admire loyalty, but—" "He fired me because he had to," Noah interrupted. "His boss threatened to shut down the whole operation if he didn't make an example of me. Gavin has 3 kids and a mortgage. He made the choice he had to make to keep 40 other people employed." Noah leaned forward. "Gavin understands street-level logistics better than anyone I've met. He knows how delivery systems actually work in the real world, not just on paper. And he taught me that sometimes good people have to make hard choices. I want him on my team." Gregory studied Noah's face for a long moment. "You're sure about this?" "I'm sure." "Then make the call." 2 hours later, Noah sat in a small coffee shop in Queens, watching Gavin Torres walk through the door. Gavin looked older, tired. He'd put on weight since losing the courier job. "Noah." Gavin stopped at his table, confused. "What are you doing here? How did you find me?" "Sit down, Gavin, please." Gavin sat slowly, his eyes scanning Noah's business suit, the expensive watch, the confidence that came with success. "You look different." 6 months changes a lot," Noah said. "I have a job offer for you." "Kid, I appreciate whatever this is, but I don't need charity. I'm working construction now. It's honest work. Vice President of Street Operations for Wellington Efficiency Solutions. Starting salary is $120,000, plus benefits and performance bonuses. You'd oversee urban logistics implementation for client companies across the Northeast." Gavin's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. "What kind of game is this?" "No game. I'm offering you a job because you're the best logistics manager I've ever worked with. You understand how things move through cities because you've been down there making it happen for 15 years. Noah." Gavin set down his cup carefully. "I fired you. I cost you your job when you needed it most. You protected 40 other jobs by firing one. That's not something to apologize for. That's leadership." Gavin's hands shook slightly. I've been carrying that guilt for 6 months. Knowing you were out there, probably struggling, because I didn't have the courage to stand up to my boss. Gavin, look at me. Noah waited until their eyes met. You taught me that survival sometimes means making choices that hurt people you care about. But you also taught me that true leaders find ways to fix those choices later. I'm fixing it now. Tears gathered in Gavin's eyes. Why? After what I did to you? Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing what happens next. Noah slid a business card across the table. Wellington Efficiency Solutions. Your name is already on the org chart. You start Monday if you want. Gavin picked up the card, staring at the embossed logo. Wellington Industries? Noah, what the hell happened to you? I got lucky. I worked hard. And I never forgot where I came from. Noah stood up. Think about the offer, but don't take too long. We have cities to fix. That evening, Noah stood on the balcony of his mother's new house, watching her arrange flowers on the kitchen table through the window. She moved without the portable oxygen tank for the first time in 2 years. The specialists said her condition had stabilized. Good nutrition, clean air, and reduced stress were working miracles. His phone rang. Gavin's number. I'm in. Gavin's voice was thick with emotion. Monday morning I'll be there. Welcome to the team, Gavin. Noah hung up and looked out over the neighborhood. Quiet streets, children playing in yards, families having dinner together. 6 months ago, this world had been as distant as the moon. Now his mother was part of it, safe and healthy and home. But Noah knew his real work was just beginning. Every day, kids like him were racing through rain with packages, choosing between rent money and medicine, invisible to a world that had already counted them out. Noah had been lucky enough to be seen. Now he had the power to help others become visible too. The transformation was complete, but the mission was just starting. 1 year later, Noah stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office on the 42nd floor of Wellington Industries. The autumn sun painted Manhattan's skyline in shades of gold, casting long shadows across the streets where he had once sprinted with packages clutched against his chest. From this height, the delivery trucks looked like toys, their drivers invisible specks navigating the urban maze he knew by heart. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. The photo showed her standing in their new backyard, arms raised in victory beside a small vegetable garden she had planted herself. Her oxygen tank was nowhere to be seen. The caption read, "First tomatoes. Made your favorite pasta sauce. Come home hungry." Noah smiled, remembering how she used to apologize for not being able to cook real meals when they lived in the projects. Now she experimented with recipes from cooking shows, her kitchen filled with fresh ingredients instead of expired coupons. The medical bills that once kept them awake at night were just memories. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Gregory Wellington entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the relaxed smile that had replaced his usual corporate mask over the past months. "Reviewing your empire?" Gregory asked, handing Noah one of the cups. Noah accepted the coffee, still amazed that the most powerful man in the city brought him drinks, like they were equals. Actually thinking about the kids down there, the ones we can't see from up here. Gregory nodded, understanding the weight behind Noah's words. The scholarship program proposals are on my desk. 5 full rides to prep schools, plus the mentorship initiative you designed. It's not enough, Noah said quietly. I keep thinking about all the times I delivered packages to these towers. Security guards who looked right through me, executive assistants who treated me like furniture. How many other kids are down there right now, brilliant and invisible? You can't save everyone, Noah. Maybe not everyone, but I can change the system that makes kids invisible in the first place. Noah turned from the window, his eyes bright with purpose. What if we required every department to hire from the courier services? Not charity positions, real jobs with growth potential. What if we looked for talent in places nobody else thinks to look? Gregory studied the boy who had revolutionized his company's entire operational structure. At 13, Noah thought bigger than most adults, but he also carried the weight of his origins in every decision. "You want to institutionalize opportunity," Gregory said slowly. "I want to make sure no kid has to choose between helping someone and saving their family." Noah's voice carried the memory of that rain-soaked night when he found Jay unconscious. "I got lucky. Someone saw what I did and cared enough to find me. But luck shouldn't be the only way out." The intercom crackled with his assistant's voice. "Mr. Carter, the department heads are ready for your 3 o'clock meeting." Noah straightened his tie, still adjusting to formal business attire. The suit felt less foreign now, but he never forgot the weight of his old courier bag or the ache in his legs from climbing 40 flights of stairs when elevators were reserved for executives. "Coming," he replied, then looked back at Gregory. "I have a proposal for the board next week. A complete restructuring of how we identify and develop talent, not just here, but industry-wide." "Ambitious," Gregory said. "Also expensive. Cheaper than losing the next Noah Carter because he's delivering mail instead of designing solutions." Noah gathered his files, each page representing hours of research and planning. The math works. It always works when you're solving the right problem. As they walked toward the conference room, Noah caught his reflection in the polished hallway mirrors. The boy who stared back looked confident, professional, purposeful. But underneath the corporate veneer, he remained the kid who had run through storms to keep the lights on for his mother. The department heads rose when Noah entered the room, a gesture that still felt surreal. These were people with decades of experience, advanced degrees, connections that stretched back generations. Yet they deferred to him because his ideas worked, and his results spoke louder than any pedigree. "Before we review this quarter's efficiency reports," Noah began, "I want to talk about next quarter's talent acquisition strategy." He moved to the presentation screen, clicking through slides that showed recruitment pipelines, performance metrics, and demographic analyses. But the real presentation happened when he spoke from experience rather than data. 2 years ago, I knew every shortcut in this city. I could tell you which loading docks moved fastest, which security desks treated couriers with respect, which buildings had broken elevators. I had information worth millions, but nobody thought to ask me because I was just a kid with a bike. The room fell silent, absorbing the implications. How many current employees started as couriers, maintenance workers, or security guards? Noah continued. How many brilliant people are we ignoring because they don't have the right zip code or the right connections? Martha Chen, the head of human resources, leaned forward. "You're talking about a complete overhaul of our recruitment philosophy." "I'm talking about competitive advantage," Noah corrected. "While our competitors fight over the same pool of Ivy League graduates, we could be identifying talent that nobody else sees. People who understand efficiency because they've lived it, who solve problems because their survival depends on it." David Rodriguez from Operations raised his hand. "The logistics department has already seen remarkable improvements since implementing your protocols, but scaling that across the entire company. We'll revolutionize how we think about human capital," Noah finished. "The question isn't whether we can afford to do this. It's whether we can afford not to." Gregory watched from the back of the room, remembering the desperate boy who had carried his son through a storm. That same fierce determination now drove corporate strategy discussions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. After the meeting, Noah returned to his office as the sun began to set. The city lights were flickering on, creating a constellation of ambition and struggle stretching to every horizon. Somewhere down there, a kid was probably racing against time with someone else's deadline, wondering if they would make enough to keep their world from falling apart. Noah opened his laptop and began typing an email to every major courier service in the city. The subject line read, "Partnership Opportunity, Identifying Future Leaders." His phone rang, his mother's number. "Hey, Mom. I saw the news story about your speech to the Business Council," she said, pride evident in her voice. "My baby, talking to all those important people about helping other kids. I'm so proud I could burst." "I learned from the best," Noah replied. "You taught me that being poor doesn't mean being powerless." "You're changing the world, Noah. Not just for us, but for families like we used to be." After they hung up, Noah looked out at the city one more time. The transformation was complete, but the mission was expanding. He had gone from invisible to indispensable, from struggling to thriving, from surviving to leading. But the real victory would come when other kids didn't have to make that journey alone. He picked up his pen and began sketching plans for a foundation that would identify and nurture talent in the most overlooked places. Every courier, every maintenance worker, every security guard who showed initiative would have a path forward. No more invisible heroes racing through rain while the powerful world looked the other way. The boy who had once been counted out was now doing the counting, and he planned to make sure nobody got left behind. Now, we want to know your opinion. From 0 to 10, what score does this story deserve?